Emotional prison: How childhood wounds trap you in toxic love, Carl Jung. You don't stay because you're weak. You stay because somewhere, long ago, love began to hurt. And your inner child learned that pain is the price of closeness. Carl Jung called this the shadow of unmet needs. A place where your earliest wounds quietly dictate who you love. And how much of yourself you lose in the process. Have you ever found yourself unable to walk away from someone who's hurting you? Not because you don't see the damage, but because a deeper part of you fears what it means to let go. This isn't just attachment. It's emotional captivity. A silent agreement your inner child made long ago. If I endure, maybe, this time, I'll be loved for real. Carl Jung believed that the pain we carry from childhood doesn't disappear. It hides. And when left unseen, it becomes the blueprint of our relationships. So if you feel stuck, lost, or exhausted in love, this isn't about your failure. It's about your earliest emotional blueprint trying to protect you, while quietly destroying you from within. In the pinned comment, you'll find a special ebook. Not a solution, but a companion. A place to translate what you're feeling into something gentle, clear, and deeply healing. And if this message already touched a quiet corner of your story, subscribe now. Not because we're trying to fix you, but because here, we listen to the parts of you the world often forgets. The inner child's contract, when pain becomes the price of love. You didn't fall in love. You fell into a familiar wound. That's the part no one tells you. That sometimes, what we call love is just our inner child trying to finish a conversation that never ended. A conversation filled with silent questions. Am I enough? Will you stay this time? Will you love me even when I'm not perfect? Carl Jung believed that what we repress doesn't disappear. It becomes our fate. And when the child inside you is never held, never heard, never truly seen, they don't grow up and move on. They wait. They carry the ache like a locked door inside your chest. And when someone comes along who touches that ache, not with healing, but with the same absence, same inconsistency, same hunger you once felt, you confuse it for connection. Because pain feels like home. This is the trap. Not the relationship, but the pattern beneath it. You stay not because you're weak, but because something in you believes. If I can make this person love me, maybe I'll finally be enough. But that belief didn't start here. It started in a childhood where love was conditional. Where affection was earned, not given. Where your emotional needs were met with silence, distraction, or disapproval. And so you adapted. You became the pleaser. The fixer. The one who swallowed their needs to stay close. And the worst part? It worked. So you learned to survive that way. But now that same survival strategy is ruining your ability to feel safe in love. Because here's the truth Jung would want you to understand. What you call love may be your trauma playing dress up. That partner who ignores you when you need comfort. Feels just like the parent who wasn't emotionally available. That person who makes you question your worth, your value, your place. Feels just like the moments you were shamed for expressing your truth. This isn't love. It's recognition. Your nervous system is not looking for safety. It's looking for what's familiar. And the familiar, for you, is pain. So you fall for people who recreate the wound. Because your inner child believes. If I stay, if I endure, if I earn it this time, I'll finally get what I was denied. But you won't. Because this pattern doesn't heal the past. It only repeats it. You're not in love. You're in loyalty. To a version of yourself that had to make pain feel like love just to survive. And that version of you isn't bad. They're brilliant. They kept you alive. But now, they're keeping you stuck. This is where the prison forms. Not with chains, but with hope. The hope that this time will be different. That this person will see you. That this relationship will finally heal the wound. But wounds don't heal when you hand them back to the person who caused them. Or to anyone who reminds you of them. They heal when you stop asking for rescue. And start remembering. You are the one you've been waiting for. That's the paradox Jung knew so well. The pain is not your punishment. It's your portal. But only if you're willing to see what's underneath. And what's underneath is not just heartbreak. It's the original ache. The one from childhood. The one that said, "I'll do anything to be loved. Even if it hurts." That's the belief that built your cage. And now it's time to break it. But not by running away from the person who triggers it. And not by proving anything to them. You break it by looking inward. And finally saying to that little version of you, "You never had to earn love. You were already enough. And I won't let you bleed for affection ever again." That's the moment things start to shift. Not because the pain is gone. But because you stopped letting it define who you're allowed to love. And how you're allowed to be loved. Because real love doesn't feel like survival. It feels like breathing. Like coming home. Like finally exhaling. But you won't find it until you stop confusing love with struggle. Until you realize that being trapped is not love's fault. It's the shadow of your unmet needs, chasing closure where it can't be found. And that's where we go next. Into the deeper layer of how the inner child clings to what hurts. And how to begin the quiet process of emotional release. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. You think you're staying because you love them. But love doesn't leave you breathless from anxiety. It doesn't make you question your worth every night. It doesn't keep you begging in silence for something you'll never receive. What you're calling love is often your nervous system in survival mode. Because long before you knew what love was supposed to feel like, you learned what not being loved felt like. And that sensation, that ache of being unseen, unimportant, emotionally abandoned, became a blueprint etched into your body. Carl Jung believed that trauma lives in the unconscious. And that the unconscious speaks through symbols, emotions, and patterns. So when you say, "I don't know why I can't leave them," what you're really saying is, "There's a part of me still hoping this time I'll be chosen." That part is your inner child. And your body is listening to them more than you realize. Because even when your adult mind says, "This person is not good for me," your body still trembles at the thought of letting go. Still panics at the silence. Still aches for the text, the attention, the crumb of closeness. Why? Because to your nervous system, letting go of them feels like letting go of your last chance to heal what happened back then. It's not logic. It's loyalty to the original pain. And the pain says, "Stay. Maybe this time, it'll be different. Maybe if you love them enough, they'll finally love you back the way you always needed." But they won't. Because they're not your parent. And this isn't your childhood. Yet everything inside you is still living like it is. That's the prison. Not the person. But the way your inner child keeps handing them the key to unlock something they were never meant to hold. Carl Jung taught that we don't just carry memories. We carry emotional energy. We carry unmet needs like ghosts inside our adult lives. And when someone stirs that energy, it doesn't matter how much your mind knows better. Your body still reacts. Still attaches. Still waits. This is why healing can't be done by thinking your way out. You can't logic your way out of a wound that was never logical. You have to feel it, hold it, and learn how to stay present, without letting the child drive your decisions. So how do you begin? First, you stop blaming yourself for staying. Staying wasn't your weakness. It was your nervous system trying to protect what felt like life or death. Because when love was survival, your brain wired connection as safety, even if that connection was to chaos. Second, you stop trying to hate your way out. So many people try to escape these bonds by building anger, resentment, disgust. But hate is still a tether, still an attachment, still a reaction to the same wound. Freedom isn't found in rejection. It's found in recognition. When you realize that you're not obsessed with them, you're obsessed with what they represent. The missing piece. The final fix. The rewrite of a story that was never fair to begin with. But healing doesn't mean rewriting the past. It means putting down the pen. It means finally saying, I don't need this person to choose me anymore. Because I choose me now. And in that moment, something shifts. You begin to untangle. The text that used to make your heart race, now makes you pause. The silence that used to terrify you, now feels like breathing room. The ache that once screamed, "Don't leave me," softens into something else. I'm not leaving myself again. This is the beginning of emotional detachment. Not apathy. Not dissociation. But conscious uncoupling. From a wound that no longer gets to run your life. It won't be clean. It won't be easy. Some days, you'll miss the chaos. Because chaos was familiar. And your inner child was taught to mistake survival for love. But little by little, you'll create a new template. You'll stop running toward people who echo your pain. And start welcoming people who reflect your peace. This is what Jung meant when he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The person you can't stop thinking about? They're not fate. They're a mirror. And you can stop staring. Because there's something more important to see now. Your own reflection. Without the distortion of desperation. Your love was never the problem. Your fear of losing it was. But the truth is, you can't lose something that's already yours. You don't need someone else to validate what was always sacred inside you. You only need the courage to stop handing your inner child back to people who never asked for them. And the compassion to say, you're safe now. You don't have to fight for love anymore. It's time to rest. Loving without losing yourself, the path back to wholeness. There comes a point on your healing path when you realize you're not trying to stop loving someone. You're trying to stop losing yourself every time you do. Carl Jung called this individuation. The process of becoming whole, of stepping out of inherited patterns, and finally living from your center. Not your fear, not your wound, not your past. But getting there isn't just about letting go of a person. It's about retrieving the part of you that kept handing yourself away. You see, when the inner child is still in pain, love becomes a transaction. You give all of yourself, your time, your peace, your dreams. Just to feel seen, held, chosen. But mature love? Mature love doesn't ask you to disappear. It invites you to show up. Fully. Imperfectly. Honestly. That's the difference between being in love and being in captivity. When you're emotionally trapped by someone you love, you're not loving from your truth. You're loving from your survival mode. That's the child in you trying to fix what was broken long before this relationship ever began. So how do you begin to untangle? How do you stop loving in ways that hurt? It starts by remembering who you are outside of the wound. You are not just someone who needs to be loved. You are someone capable of loving themselves through the hardest goodbyes. You are not just the broken child hoping someone will come back. You are the adult who can now say, "I'm here. And I won't leave you again." When you begin to love yourself like that, everything changes. You no longer confuse silence with rejection. You no longer mistake emotional absence for mystery. You no longer stay when your soul is begging you to go. Because now you can hear your soul. You've made room for it. Carl Jung taught that what we reject in ourselves becomes our shadow. But when we bring that shadow into the light, when we listen to the parts of us that were silenced for too long, we stop being haunted by them. We start being guided by them. And the part of you that stayed too long in relationships that drained you, that's not your weakness. That's your inner child still waiting to be rescued. But they're not waiting for them. They're waiting for you. They don't need that person to apologize. They need you to say, "I see how hard you tried. You don't have to try anymore." Because here's what no one teaches you. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't love them. It means you love yourself enough not to bleed for their silence anymore. You can still care. You can still wish them well. But you can also choose not to self-destruct to keep someone close. Because when you do that, it's not love. It's repetition. And repetition is the trap. You keep reliving what hurt, hoping to rewrite the ending. But the story doesn't change until the author does. You're the author now. You can stop writing chapters where you're the one who always sacrifices. Where you're always the one waiting, fixing, hoping, breaking. You can start writing chapters where your love doesn't come at the cost of your peace. And yes, there will be grief. Not just for the person you're letting go, but for the version of yourself that only knew love as suffering. You will miss them. But more than that, you'll miss who you thought you could become if they loved you the right way. Let that go. You don't need anyone's love to be worthy of your own. And that's the ultimate healing. When you stop loving people for their potential, and start choosing people who meet you with presence. When you stop explaining your pain in hopes someone will finally understand. And start understanding yourself so deeply that no explanation is ever needed. That's how you love without losing yourself. With boundaries. With clarity. With a heart that knows, I can love you and still choose me. Because that's what the inner child never knew was possible. That they could be loved without performance. Without begging. Without shrinking. You teach them that now. Every time you say no to something that costs your peace. Every time you walk away from someone who keeps you small. Every time you pause before reacting and whisper to yourself, I'm safe. I'm loved. I'm already enough. This is integration. Not perfection. Not immunity from pain. But presence. Truth. Alignment. And when you live from that place, you're no longer trapped by who you love. You're free to love without losing your voice. That's the life your inner child was always reaching for. Not a life without love, but a life where love doesn't hurt. And it begins now. You are not the prison. You are the key. There comes a silence. After the chaos. A moment when you're no longer fighting to be loved. No longer chasing someone who keeps leaving. No longer measuring your worth through someone else's inability to see you. And in that silence, something unexpected happens. You hear yourself again. Your voice. Your breath. Your pain, no longer screaming, but speaking. Carl Jung believed that the greatest gift of the unconscious was not to torment us, but to guide us back to ourselves. And the truth is, you were never truly trapped by them. You were trapped by a version of you that thought love had to hurt in order to mean something. But love doesn't need to wound to be real. Love doesn't require the death of your identity to bloom. You were not meant to lose yourself in someone else's absence. You were meant to come alive in your own presence. So if you're standing on the edge of letting go, not just of a person, but of the belief that pain equals connection, know this: you are not walking away from love. You are walking back to it. In the pinned comment, you'll find a special ebook. Not a manual, but a mirror. A place to meet yourself again, with gentleness, truth, and peace. And if this message held up a light to something you've been carrying in the dark, subscribe to this channel. Because here, we don't teach you how to fix yourself. We remind you that you were never broken. Just waiting to be heard. And maybe today is the day you finally whispered back, "I hear you now."